Hi, everyone. It's Alicia. How are you? I'm going to give it a few um, minutes here. Oh, we're having trouble with one of our platforms. 1 second. So let's go to Facebook. Yeah, that works. I'm trying to get all things set here. Let's see. Not really sure why this happens every time, but it literally happens every time we do this. I'm hoping that this fixes the problem. Let's see. Let's remove it. And now let's add it again and see if that does it. All right, we're in business. All right, guys. I am so excited to have you all joining this evening. And if you saw the advertisements, whether it was on Facebook or Instagram or wherever you saw it, thank you for tuning in tonight. I am really excited to just kind of go over what I've been doing in terms of healthy eating and how this can, be incorporated in your life as well. And then just also just go through some things about, how eating has affected not only me, but also, you as well. So I hope that you all have taken the time to get, and I actually haven't shared this with you, but I want you to get a pen and paper because we're going to just really start thinking about our eating in ways that it's not only affecting us in terms of our diet, but also our mental health, our spiritual health, all those things, because eating affects all those things in our lives. So we definitely want to make sure that we are utilizing our eating practices in a way that is beneficial, not, like I said, not only to our physical, but also to our mental and spiritual health as well. I'm actually recording in the area that I podcast today, so that's why it might look a little different than what you normally see me doing. Today, I completed a podcast, and then I was like, let me just stay here. I'm already set up, everything's here, so done, right? So I am going to get started. Like I said, I'm excited that you're here. And if you're watching this at another time, I'm excited that you've taken the time to actually watch this recording and take in the information because it's so important that we really start looking at our eating in a way of, especially healthy eating, as something that we're going on a journey with and not just some destination that we're reaching. I feel like fad dieting and what we have seen in social media and just propaganda in general as it relates to dieting, it has allowed us to be bombarded with all these things where if I go on this Atkins diet or if I do Jenny Craig or whatever, I will lose this weight and then I'll be happily ever after. And trust me, I was on that bandwagon as well. Been there, done that, got the t-shirt, all the things. But as I've realized over time, these quick fix diets are literally a quick fix at the time, but it's the maintenance that's so important. So I encourage you all just to keep an open mind during this actual session. Once again, I'm excited that you are here, but I want you to realize that what we are doing in terms of our eating habits are our personal journey, and there's no one way to have healthy eating in our lives, right? I am plant based, but that doesn't mean everybody's going to be plant based, right? That does not mean that everyone has to go vegan, or vegetarian or whatever that looks like. It's us really addressing what is stopping us from being healthy eaters and how we can then move forward in this journey, because it's literally a journey. Sometimes you have good days, sometimes you have not so great days, but it's always just getting back up on the horse and trying again. And that's what's going to be the most success out of all of this than anything is just to keep going and know that this is not a certain destination, and you're not going to completely fall apart if you don't, maintain a certain eating pattern for X amount of time, right? So let's get started. This is Healthy Eating is a journey and not a destination. Once again, like I said, I am so excited you are here. And let's get started. If you haven't already, please get a pad and pen, notebook, pen, pencil, whatever, because we're going to be really writing down things and looking at how eating is affecting us in more ways than one, right? So let's see here. So your diet is a bank account. Good food choices are good investments. And I love this actual saying because for me, when I think of how I'm eating in my diet and all these different things, I'm thinking of it in a way of what I am investing in terms of my body and my health, and how eating is a part of ensuring that I'm making a good investment in my body. I think a lot of times, at least for me, I can't speak for everybody. At one point, I thought because me dieting, like that was going to be the optimal way of being healthy. And traditionally, that is not something that. Well, actually, traditionally, it is something that we have been accustomed to thinking that if we go on this certain diet, that it's going to change our lives. We're going to be really healthy and this, that, and the other. But it's more so of us creating a lifestyle, right? This quote is a good start to it, but it's really us looking at our lifestyle and how we can make these good investments for our body by way of eating healthy food and really taking on our health as something that is a part of who we are and not as something that's on the outside of us. Um, our bodies are our bodies, right? Regardless of what they look like, they are our bodies, and we need to honor them in a way of really investing in them by eating good food. So, what this course is not, it's not a quick fix, it's not a diet plan, and it's not a magic wand. This is your journey to begin your best healthy self. And I definitely wanted to start with that because I don't want people to think that there's some big magic wand in it. And we know this. We know there's no magic wand to eating healthy. It is us making choices every day that will benefit our health and to make sure that we are making the best choices to ensure that we are at our best, whether it be physically, mentally, spiritually. Food is definitely a part of all those components of our lives. And it's us making those choices to ensure that we as a whole person are well throughout all of this. I did want to mention disordered eating and eating disorders. And I found this great quote by Wiltsky. And disordered eating is a term used to describe a wide range of harmful eating behaviors that may not warrant an eating disorder diagnosis, whereas an eating disorder is basically their disorders are mental illness with specific narrow diagnostic criteria. So you're probably thinking, why are we talking about this? I want to mention this because sometimes when people do take on a new endeavor in terms of eating, it can turn into something that is really blown out of proportion by way of something like disordered eating. While disordered eating is not an actual diagnosis like bulimia, anorexia nervosa, things of that nature, it is something that can be a part of our lives where we are consumed by our actual food intake, our exercise, and we are overextending ourselves in ways that aren't necessary and aren't really fulfilling to our body and our actual needs. More information about disordered eating or eating disorders, if you want that, definitely reach out to me and I can share that with you. But I definitely want you guys to realize and really be present in your body and know if those things are triggers for you, right? If you do have issues with eating disorders or if you have disordered eating, we really need to think about what this looks like in terms of how you are going forward with your actual healthy eating journey. Because when we are considering changing our diets and our patterns, sometimes, not everybody, but some people can go to an extreme. I am one of those people. I can go to an extreme when it comes to a diet. I can fast for 21 days. I can do all these things and get so bombarded and overwhelmed with the whole process that it really is not beneficial to my body in the way that me just taking the time to acknowledge the foods that I'm eating and being okay with the foods that I'm eating, and also providing ease to my mental health with what I'm eating. That is the best way and process for me to manage my eating. And like I said, everyone is different. And if there are concerns about eating disorders, that is something we would have to then, seek medical or professional help with, right? Mental health specialists. Sometimes it is on the medical side, depending on your circumstantial situation. But that would be something we would then have to take beyond what we're doing here. That would be more of a situation where, like I said, a therapist or some type of medical professional would have to intervene. But I definitely wanted to bring this up and let people know that if you are experiencing these things, we would then have to follow through with other evaluations and further guidance. All right. I don't want to be, to just kind of throw this out and make it light, but I definitely want to address it and let people know that there are resources that I do have around disordered eating and eating disorders. And if you do have, a therapist, or you're working with a nutritionist or someone that is managing your actual eating disorder and disordered eating, definitely reach out to them for further guidance at this time. It is so, so, so important, because even though eating seems, sometimes it can appear just benign, it can literally be something that can cause major, major distress. So definitely reach out to those professionals that you do rely on for support. This session is not a part of, managing a disordered eating or eating disorder diagnosis. Mental health and eating. I found this quote from Sutter Health, and I thought this was amazing, because I think a lot of times we forget that mental health is definitely a part of a part of our eating process. Sugar and processed foods can lead to inflammation throughout the body and brain, which may contribute to mood disorders, including anxiety and depression. When we're feeling stressed or depressed, it's often processed foods we reach for and search for a quick pick me up, right? When we're thinking about our mental health and how it correlates with food, certain things like sugar and processed food, because of the high sugar content, because of the actual processing of those foods, these aren't whole foods. These aren't foods that would traditionally nourish our bodies. They are literally what they're meant to do, to be a quick pick me up, and then we're back looking for more of it, because it is not provided the nutrients for our bodies to sustain throughout the day. Some people will say, I've eaten or whatever, and now I feel sluggish, or now I feel like I have no energy, or I'm reaching for more something sweet and sugary. It could be because we've not eaten things that are that would provide nourishment to our bodies and create a actual process of being satisfied. A lot of what we're eating, particularly in America, is something that is processed, that is in a box, that is not natural. And this would then lead to us then looking for additional things to eat, because they don't provide traditionally the nourishment that our body needs to sustain throughout the day. I know you've heard of these quotes, and maybe you haven't, but to, we are here to eat to live and not live to eat. I was a person that used to live to eat. I loved food, and I still listen. It's not like complete fix. I'm just completely fixed, but I am more mindful of what I'm eating. I am not just living to eat. I am eating to live, and I'm really being, you know, as choosy as possible about what I'm eating. And I'm hoping that during this session, we will learn how to do that as well, and then follow up on that at a later time. Eating for me. So this is where our pen and paper come in. So I'm going to right with you. I've got my pen. I got a huge notepad here, but let's really take the time. Eating for me is, so write down the first 5 thoughts that come to mind. Don't think too hard into this, right? First 5 thoughts that come to mind for you. We're not starting yet. So for those that are eager, I hear you, but one second. So eating for me is, like I said, write the first 5 thoughts that come to mind. Read them back to yourself. And then how does that make you feel? Just take about 3 or 4 minutes to really think about this, write it down, read them back to yourself, and see how does this make you feel, right? We can go ahead and start writing. Give it a few more minutes. Or actually, we'll give it a few seconds rather. All right. So I hope you guys had a chance to write down those first 5 thoughts that came to mind for you. And so, eating for me, what I wrote down was it's pleasure, it's coping, way for me to cope, it's nourishment, it's fun, and it's social. And then when I read that back to myself, this is what I wrote down for me. And I said, looking at my answers, I feel mixed emotions because I love the idea of eating and I know that it is something I love to do with friends and family, but it is also something I do when I'm stressed. I hope to continue to find ways to promote eating in my life as a life source and not a crutch in my everyday life. And so everybody's answer is probably different, but I really want us to start thinking about how it makes us feel. Because if it's not something that's making us feel good, we really have to start thinking about how we can then turn that around. Not to say that healthy eating is going to be the end all be all to us feeling good and in general, but if eating is making us feel bad, we have to start really taking an inventory of what we're eating, when we're eating, and why we're eating, maybe who we're eating with. So many things we need to consider because it could be a thing that all those things are affected in a negative way, and we have to find ways to change that in order to start feeling good about, our eating patterns and habits and our overall eating practices. Is so important to really just be mindful of these things. I eat for, do you eat for nourishment? Do you eat for pleasure? To eliminate boredom? To suppress feelings? Things to think about, right? As we continue on. What is eating well? What does that look like to you? So we're going to go back and write down the first 5 thoughts. We won't take as long as we did before, but I want us to really start thinking about what all this looks like for us. What is eating well to you? So I'll turn on the music really quick. We'll take a few seconds to write down those first 5 thoughts. Obviously, we're going to read them back to ourselves. And are you currently executing these things? And if not, what's holding you back? Let's really think that through. So I hope you all had a chance to write down your answers. And for me, the first 5 things that came to me was New York City. You gotta love it. Cops. So the first one for me was eating a well-nourished breakfast. And I think for me, eating in the morning kind of sets my tone. I know some people don't eat well and don't eat in the morning. They have like an intermittent fast, and that's fine. But for me, eating a well-nourished breakfast, not skipping meals, eating plenty of fruits and vegetables, not eating late at night. That's something I definitely struggle with, right? Having those midnight snacks, having those late snacks, not midnight, I don't even stay up that late, but having snacks, right before bed. And also cooking at home. Very important things that we should incorporate into our everyday lives. Um, and what I wrote down is, am I currently executing these things? Yes, I am currently executing most of these things. I am struggling with late night eating. And what is holding me back from that is it's just a part of my routine. It's habit. I'm just used to doing it. And to break my habit at this point, what is that going to look like going forward? How am I going to actually move forward and do something new? Right? It's that fear behind it. And we all know fear is something that we've just kind of created in our mind. It's not real. So, what is holding you back from eating well based off what you've written down? What was eating like as a child? We don't have to do the music, but I want you to just think that through. What was eating like as a child? First 5 thoughts that come to mind. We don't have to write this down. We can think about it. I can say for me, eating when I was a child was um, my mother would cook, right? And she had moments where she was like, okay, this is what I made. You're gonna eat this and done. Or she would cook whatever we asked for. So it was very mixed. Portions were not even a thing. I didn't even know really about portions until later on in life, being completely honest. We ate a lot of, fried things. I'm from Southern Indiana, which is basically the South. So a lot of fried foods. I always tell people I don't remember really drinking water growing up, right? A lot of soda, a lot of juice, Kool-Aid, iced tea, sugary iced tea, mind you. Um, so that was my childhood. It makes me feel, um, in a way, I feel good because I'm not really practicing all that. But some of us may be still practicing that, right? I feel good about the fact that I've really, evolved in a way of removing myself from a lot of my childhood eating habits, um, because of what we were eating. And that was just a time when we didn't know. We had no idea all these things were causing so many health problems. We weren't as aware of how food affects our bodies as we are now. So now I feel good that I have this information. I have the availability to share it with people as well, because even now, some people aren't aware. And it's not a good or bad thing. It's just there are people like myself that are on this journey that are willing to share the information that I have with you to help you then maintain or enhance your actual eating patterns as we know it. Do you have the same eating patterns, right? If yes, how do you feel about it? If not, what made you change those practices and how do you feel about your current practices? For me, obviously, I'm not doing those same things. I feel good about the practices that I have, but I still struggle with things like sugar. I still struggle with, late night eating. Those things are a part of some of my childhood practices. Obviously, the sugar is, the late night snacking, not so much. But these things are still in my life, and I'm trying to figure out how to now navigate my way into eliminating so much sugar. I'm actually doing a lot better. I have to admit, pat myself on the back. I am doing a lot better with my sugar intake, and how I'm just being more mindful of when I'm eating sugar, time of day, stuff like that, because it's really, really important. Eating changes are a mindset. And I put that in all caps because it's so important for us to realize that the changing the way we eat and how we feel about eating, it's all controlled by our minds. And sometimes that's hard to wrap our minds around, but it really is. The more emphasis we have on enhancing our eating patterns or enhancing anything in our life, the better our mind is equipped to make those changes. I don't know if you've been hearing all these things, but we are becoming more aware and more conscious of what we're eating and how we're eating, and more aware of how we see the world and how the world works, and us being mindful around those practices and thoughts and feelings. So, knowing that and knowing that a lot of what we think and feel, what we put in our mind, those things actually become a part of our everyday lives. Thoughts become things. Changing our mind about our eating habits can then lead to us actually following through with changing our eating patterns. And it's literally simple, but at the same time, it's not something that is going to happen overnight. And so, even though it's a simple message and a simple way of approaching it, there's still a lot of things we have to tear down and uncover, because we have things like trauma that have caused us to have certain eating patterns. We have just regular everyday stress in our lives. We have just our families weren't educated on what it was to eat healthy. So there's so many components that we have to now really like uncover and break down. But at the end of the day, this change is literally in our minds. So we definitely can do that and make it happen for ourselves. But it's about changing our minds about eating and how we approach it on a daily basis. I definitely wanted to say this is not related to those who are food insecure, because we obviously know that's a whole different monster, but you just got to say it. What changes do you need to make? Right? I want you to really think about this. We don't have to write it down. If you want to write it down, you can. But write down the first 5 thoughts that come to mind. What changes do you need to make? We all know what changes we need to make, you know? But then are we scared about those changes? Are we excited about those changes? Are we anxious about making these changes? These are things we definitely need to think about because being more aware of why changes aren't happening in our life will allow us to just be mindful of them, not completely like just forget about it and be overwhelmed, but it's time for us to start addressing why things are happening and not always equate it to, oh, my life is so terrible, I don't know why these things are happening, or oh, I can't change the way I eat because I've always eaten this way, or oh, I can't change the way I eat because eating fruits and vegetables are just gross, right? And I don't know how to cook them, or we can be all the excuses in the world, right? And other things that can make us scared and anxious and cause anxiety in my family, like how are they gonna be able to eat these things? And I don't know if they're gonna like it, right? We have families that we cook and care for on a daily. Are they gonna be receptive to these changes? This is where we have to start really sitting down with ourselves, even with our families, and talking about what is important in terms of our actual health and things that we can do to have better eating habits, not only for ourselves, but our friends and families as well. It's so important that we take that time to be mindful and think it through as opposed to just going through the routine, throw some food together, and just go from there. Mindful eating is all a part of healthy eating as well. Being mindful of what we're actually doing and how we're approaching this is so beneficial in this process as well, because it really allows us to uncover what is going on, what could be holding us back, and then thinking about things that can move us forward because everybody's journey is different. Right. And we can't assume that my journey is going to be the same as yours and vice versa. Eating well. Eating well, plant-based, vegan, it's not for everyone. Keto, it's not for everyone, right? It's finding what works for you. But here, I've written down a few things. Reducing processed foods, hands down, is going to change the trajectory of your health by leaps and bounds. We forget how much processed food we eat on a daily basis. We don't realize how much sugar is in food, how much sodium is in food, right? We can debate the fat thing, but when it comes to sodium, when it comes to sugar, those are some components that really affect our health. And we need to be mindful of those things, especially for eating packaged foods. Read those labels, right? Read those labels and see what's in the food. Your body deserves that. You deserve that, right? Cooking at home. Listen, initially I didn't want to cook as much at home. I wasn't in a place to do that. I just, it's like, oh, I can't, right? I don't have time, I don't have this. Find the time. We have time. We're on social media, we're doing this, we're doing that. That time can be time to cook. And then you'll realize over time, cooking doesn't take as long as we think it takes. It's practice, right? You don't have to be the most, amazing cook, but you can definitely make flavorful things. And you can watch me on the Eating Me group here on Facebook and see the different plant-based food options that I cook and realize how quick it is to throw something together for your friends and family or for yourself. And it doesn't have to take so much time. Like I said before, be mindful of what you're eating, right? So important. Celebrate your wins. When you're eating well, celebrate yourself. Definitely celebrate those things because that reassurance is so important for us to stay on this path, right? And then learn from your lows. You will realize the next morning you wake up after eating late and have all the sugar, you feel like crap. It's like, well, you know what? I probably need to just lessen, eating this, and this, right? Or whatever. Don't beat yourself up. Just learn from it. It's like, okay, I just got to keep going. I got to keep on keeping on. What are our next steps? What does this look like for you? I would love to work with you to review what your current eating patterns are now, see what is blocking you from achieving your goals, see what food you're eating that may be causing you distress. Because a lot of times, what we don't realize is certain foods could be causing us to have mood issues, could be causing us to have low energy, could be causing all types of things, brain fog, you name it, blood sugar, you know, instability, all types of things. And you're like, why am I dealing with this? Why is this still an issue? We would look through that with your what foods you're eating now. Not to say that you can't have those foods ever again, but there might be certain times when you should have them and other times when you shouldn't. And we can go through that. Explore foods that will benefit your mental, spiritual, and physical health. We are realizing, as much as people didn't want to acknowledge this at one point, but tons of research out there that is realizing that food is definitely something that can alter your mental state, obviously your physical state, and we definitely know your physical state. So definitely looking at that to see how food will benefit you there, and also learning how eating affects everything we do on a daily basis, whether that be us, performing at work, our exercise routine or our lack thereof, because we're so tired we can't even think about exercising, right? Mental clarity, it's at work, being able to focus, you know, finding out how all these things are affecting us and then just living that optimal life that we all deserve. It's so, so important. And this all starts with you. I can share the information, I can give you all the tips and tools, but at the end of the day, it is you that has to incorporate it. And so I would love to work with you. I would love to go through this as your coach with healthy eating and really show you where the blocks may be and where we can enhance things, right? Because sometimes we just need that person to guide us through this whole process that we feel like is so overwhelming and there's no way I can actually get all this together in my life because I've got this, and this going on. Let me help you with that. I would love to guide you through that process. Eating well is a form of self respect. Your body is your temple. Keep it pure and clean for the soul to reside in. I love, love, love this quote. Eating well is a form of self respect. And I don't know if that is something that resonates with you, but it definitely resonates with me because for the longest, I truly wasn't respecting myself. I just wasn't. I was just eating whatever and then blaming my genetics on certain things that were happening in my life. I didn't share this at the beginning, but I shared it in the actual um, explanation of this actual session today. In 2009, I was diagnosed with MS. And at that time, I was eating terribly, right? Eating any and everything, did not care, you know, poor sleeping habits. I was working overnight. I was in nursing school for my undergrad. My daughter was very young. Tons and tons of stressors that were happening in my life as well. So not only did I have stress from school, work, being, a mom with a young baby, I had all this and I'm eating terribly. It was a recipe for disaster. And so, with all that impounded on me, I found myself in the ER thinking I was having a heart attack, but it was really an exacerbation of my multiple sclerosis. In 2009, all these things happened. Things just kept blowing up in my face. I just felt like, oh my gosh, I'm not going to win. I'm not going to win. You know, even to the point where one of my advisors in college, when I was in my undergrad, it shared with me, it's probably best that you sit out for the rest of the semester and start this semester again for the next year. And as I was thinking, I was like, oh, hell no, I'm not doing that. I'm not going to stop school. I have so much that I want to do. I can't put myself in this position to be completely out of commission. I'm not in school. I'm not doing the things that I want to do to succeed. How is this possible? Right? Family friend of mine, shared that she also was diagnosed with MS. She changed her diet. And because of the change in her diet, she saw the benefits of how diet how it affected her MS. And she was able to be without medication and to just, not to get completely back to her baseline, but get back to the point where she could work and she was able to thrive in her life in ways that the doctors were telling her she would never be able to. In 2010, I got the official diagnosis of my multiple sclerosis. I started a plant-based diet, really eating well and being mindful of that. And over time, symptoms started getting better. My left side, I could not lift my arm like this. It felt like I was lifting at least 50 pounds just by doing that. And I would get so out of breath. I lost basically gross motor skills and fine motor skills, rather. Could not write. I felt like I had a stroke. I was just thinking, oh my God, like, how is this possible? This side of my body, it felt like someone put icy hot in my arm, in my leg. It felt like this horrible restless leg syndrome situation that I just wanted to cut my leg off, basically. I was so just overwhelmed with all these sensory issues that were taking place. Obviously, blank brain fog was an issue with me as well. But over time, things started changing. I still have the sensation in my hand on this side. Temperature regulation, I'm sorry, was also an issue on the side. I could put my hand on things. I couldn't feel the hot and cold. Now I can touch things and have a idea of, okay, that feels a bit warm. That feels a little cold. Slowly, things are still coming back, which is amazing that my body is still in a process of like healing itself, right? Obviously, I can write again. You saw me writing. Don't have that sense of like heaviness, tingling, and all that. It's basically eradicated. And that's with me changing my diet. I take supplements every day. I exercise 5 days a week. I'm really taking on the time to acknowledge that multiple sclerosis was a diagnosis that honestly saved my life. Initially, I thought it was the end for me. I thought, okay, I'm not going to be able to do all the things I wanted to do before. I will hope, I might have to be on medication. I might not be able to do, play with my daughter, finish nursing school. All these things were jumbled up in my head. I can't say that diet would actually cure your actual health concerns if you are experiencing health concerns, but I know that it would enhance it and it would help you in this process of your eating journey. I share my story to let you know that I changed my diet because of a health concern. I changed the way I was eating because of a health concern. I don't want those that don't have health concerns. Those are double negative situations, whatever. If you don't have health concerns, how about we start there? If you don't have health concerns, start now with eating well so you don't get into a situation where it's a now or never, right? Start eating well, treating your body as a temple, and knowing that this actual body is what gets us from point A to point B. It's what moves us around, it's what allows us to do what we do. And so when it starts declining, all the things that we want to do and all the things we want to be can be completely taken away from us if we're not eating well and if we're not taking care of this body. So it's so important that you all really start taking your body seriously because we only have one. We only have one body. Take care of it, love it, cherish it. Eating well is a part of that process, and I want to help you through that. Definitely hit me up on social media platforms if you're interested in one-on-one coaching with me. You can also send me a message through my website, aliciachristian.com. I have a link tree on my Facebook as well as my Instagram where you can reach out to me through and contact me there as well. Y'all, this has been great. I am so excited for those that are willing to go that next step and go through with coaching with me to really unmask what is stopping you from eating well and how you can be your best self in this life. I love you all, and I cannot wait to see what's on the other side of this for you. I will see y'all later. This has been amazing. Love, love, love you. I'll see you if you're not on the Eating Me platform, you definitely should join the Eating Me group. I share amazing information about eating well. I share information about just basically most things eating. We have 2 Mondays out of the month where I cook plant-based meals to show you how easy it is to actually put together a plant-based meal and how delicious they are as well. So definitely tune in if you're not a part of the Eating Me group. Definitely join. And also another shameless plug, if you are not listening to the Eating Me podcast, what are you doing? Definitely subscribe to the Eating Me podcast. I have some amazing guests that come on there that share their stories about eating. And we are now launching and actually expanding beyond eating. And I'll be excited to share that information with you all as well. We also have car confessions on Thursdays, which is hilarious. It's me basically just ranting about God knows what. Y'all, I am so happy that you tuned in this evening. You had so many other places to be, but I'm glad that you chose to be here with me this evening. Please, 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 like I said, if you want to work with me one-on-one coaching for healthy eating, definitely hit me up on my social media platforms, or you can contact me through my website, aliciachristian.com. I am so happy that we had this time together. I am signing off. I will see y'all later. I love you. Bye.